Yes, guys, I know it's the second video that's going to be uploaded in just the one day, but I had to talk about the news or the recent developments of talks behind a potential trade with Tom Barrass from the West Coast Eagles. He's 6'6", he's 28 years old. He's been a consistent performer for the West Coast Eagles for the longest part of his career. He's having a great season thus far. He's averaging 3 intercept marks per game, which he's done for the most part of his career at AFL level. In a losing side at the moment, his right-hand man, or he's probably the right-hand man to Jeremy McGovern, but probably one of the most, if not the most underrated key defender in the league. So we know he's a consistent performer. He's contracted until the end of 2027, so there's still 3 years left on the contract. But last year, he was engaged in trade talks with teams around the league, and this year, or as of right now, it's been leaked that he is in talks with Collingwood and the Western Bulldogs. And we'll talk about the permutations and how it's possible that we can get Tom Barrass to Collingwood. But it's nice to know that Tom Barrass's best game this year, he had 5 contested marks, 6 intercept marks, and 5 coaches' votes against Fremantle in arguably West Coast's biggest win of the season thus far. So like I said, he's just doing so well and continues to prove that he is the most underrated key defender in the league. So let's roll into why do the Pies need someone like Tom Barrass, in my opinion. If we look at our backline right now, and Jeremy Howe's probably our second best defender behind Darcy Moore, in my opinion, when it comes to the aerial capacity side of things. Braden Maynard serves that second best defender in other ways. But then you've got recent, I guess, mishaps and misfortunes with some players in Tom Langdon going back to 2018. He would have been a perfect partner in crime for Darcy Moore. Not to be, he was injured, or he had injured his knee and never really came back from that and didn't come back from it, retired prematurely. And then you got Jordan Roughhead, who served his time pretty well, but obviously retired. And then you've got Nathan Murphy, who just retired due to concussion. So we've had options in the past, really viable options. Tom Langdon probably the one that rings out to me the most, that had the most potential to be one of the best intercept marking defenders along with Darcy Moore. So Tom Barrass can fill that role where he's able to release the shackles off Darcy Moore furthermore and help him thrive even more as that intercepting defender, or even allow Darcy Moore to swing forward at some stage in his career. That's always an option. I feel like Charlie Dean and Billy Frampton we know a bit more about Billy Frampton. He's tiers below Tom Barrass, and I say that as respectfully, as kindly as possible. And then Charlie Dean is not a second key tall defender and is sort of struggling in bits and pieces to hold his position as a third key tall defender. So we really are lacking in that aspect of the game right now. And if you look at our mids and look at our forwards, I feel like we have some up-and-coming youth in the recent emergence of some of these fringe players that have come up from the VFL and now almost solidifying themselves as AFL proven players. And Joe Richards, you got Reef McInnes is doing okay, Finlay McRae's battling, of course, and Nick Dacos in the middle. Bo McCreary is starting to roll through there. So I feel like we have a lot more youth and more versatility in those sections of the field relative to the defense. So that's why I'm really thinking that Tom Barrass is probably one of the best options going around on the trade market right now. And looking at our Premiership window, when we're looking at Tom Barrass, yes, he's 28 going 29, but he's not showing any signs of slowing down. It keeps us within the Premiership window. And as I mentioned, we already have that young depth in the midfield and the forwards. And just looking across the league right now at aging players in the backline who are doing very well for their sides. You've got Stephen May, who is 32 years of age and is doing very well. Jeremy McGovern, 32, arguably probably one of the best intercepting defenders right now as of current in 2024. Liam Jones, 33 at the Doggies, which is probably why the Bulldogs are bullish on getting someone like Barrass over to their helm. They only have Liam Jones. Alex Keith as well is quite old. They had Buku Kamis as a medium-sized defender, so there is reason to suggest that Bulldogs will come at Tom Barrass quite aggressively, which will force Collingwood a greater deal on the trade floor when we do have those discussions, but we'll talk about that in just one moment. And along with Stephen May, McGovern, Liam Jones, you got Tom Stewart, 31. We know how good he is for Geelong, is probably their most important player structure-wise. Sam Collins at the Gold Coast Suns is 31 and he is in all-Australian form. And then Nick Vlauston, 30 at Richmond, is having and also very quietly good season in a struggling Richmond side. This pathway of delving into older players looking to move away from previous clubs has happened before. We've seen what Geelong have been able to do and maintain relevancy. They won that flag in 2022 and they're in the top 8 again this year. They started with like a house on fire and they've hit a little bit of a form slump, but they're still relevant despite their aging players. So there's nothing to be, I think there does, I feel like there's a bit of fear mongering around having an older list, but I feel like someone like Tom Barrass in the defense at his age in that type of position is not the worst thing. Okay, so how do Collingwood trade for Tom Barrass? Well, it's obvious, we've mentioned this many times before, Collingwood do not have a first round pick in this upcoming draft. However, there is news coming in that hopefully by the postseason in 2024, there will be new trade adjustments to the rules, allowing clubs to send future first round picks. So not just the year ahead, years ahead, a couple years ahead, a few years ahead, similar to the NBA, how they deal with their trades. They can trade years in advance with their first round picks to fast track their development or to maintain relevancy in their position in the league. So that's why I think it's possible from a trade aspect. And as I mentioned, it's going to allow us to stay competitive and have an elite defense for a little bit longer. You have Darcy Moore, who's 28, Braden Maynard's still relatively young, Isaac Quaynor's up and coming, John Noble's going to be around for a little bit longer. I think he's only 26, so we still have this really good contingency of defensive players that can really mold together and keep a strong defensive profile for at least another 3, 4, 5 years to come. And imagine adding someone like Tom Barrass to that mix. What are some of the concerns? Obviously, being older, it can backfire. It doesn't always work out. I don't have a team in mind where they've tried to do that and it hasn't worked out, but we know that is a possibility, so that it needs to come into consideration. The other one is Tom Barrass hasn't played a full year in 9 seasons at AFL level. He's never hit 21, 22, 23 games going into final series. So that's a bit of a question mark given maybe the nature of his role, how much of a crash and bash role it truly is. So that's something that Collingwood will strongly consider before making any advanced movements in this trade process. Now, in the worst case, who can we get at a lower cost in the next couple of years? We've spoken about Josh Battle from St Kilda, 26 years old, 6'4", averaging 18 disposals and 2.6 intercept marks per game. Very highly regarded within their 4 walls and statistically is having a career year in 2024. Would I reduce Josh Battle to something in the likes of a Kmart Tom Barrass? Maybe not, but he's definitely not a Tom Barrass, let's be honest here. But we could get him at a lesser cost and has showed great signs this year. Josh is definitely that next option if we want to go a tier below and not spend away future first round picks at will. As we know, a few of the older players will retire or accept lesser contracts to allow players like Tom Barrass or Josh Battle or players we've spoken to in the past, Ned Moyle from the Gold Coast, Mac Andrew, Sam Taylor, who actually I think has already signed on with GWS, but even Oscar Allen at the Eagles as well. So we're looking to make room contract-wise with the salaries and be willing to spend our future first round picks to remain in contention at the very top of the AFL. So let me know what your thoughts are, guys, in the comment section. Would you like to spend those trades elsewhere, or do you just want to keep them and build on the youth? Guys, bear in mind, we're also getting a father-son prospect next season at the end of 2025 in Thomas McGuan. He's going to be an elite midfielder by all reports and in the way that he's performing as a bottom ager for the Western Jets. Averaging 25 disposals as a bottom ager is nothing to take lightly, and being the son of Mick McGuan, he's got great footy IQ, he's evasive, plays beyond his age, so that's something that will be blessed to and have, I guess, a bit of a luxury, and we're going to have another gun midfielder if he continues to trend in the way that he's trending in our midfield, along with players like Nick Dacos, Josh Dacos and Jordan Agoe for the foreseeable future. So let's just get our ducks in a row when it comes to our key tall stocks, and we'll be laughing. See you guys. Bye.